First of all, I'd like to say welcome to all of you for this follow-up lecture that we're going to talk about how to self-help in the current world that we live in. Following on from the self-help meninges, Podorosidian, we're going to just also continue the story, the extraordinary dreams that we had. And just to take you back to the incredible, powerful, prophetic dream of the babies in the cave with the little turtles, the babies saying, you know, take me, sacrifice me. And remember that at the end of the dream, the little babies turned into bubbles and then floated down into this immensely beautiful green, emerald green lake. And so as we left the cave, Michael Nightingale, who was with me, and Madame Yap, who was also with me, we were trying to get out of this very evil place because the dream was not pleasant. And as we left, he said, no, there'll always be two plants. You must never leave without the other plant. And I was in a hurry to get out of the cave. And then we found, just as we were leaving, the black lichen that was actually top of the cave. So we knocked it off and it fell into my hand. And as we left the cave, Sir Michael Nightingale said to me, that, my dear Diana, is for the megakaryocytes. I had absolutely no idea what he was talking about. It was also an interesting thing because the turtle pond was bright green because of the excreta of the turtles. And he said, there's your green lake. And I said, no, 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 no. The green lake, the emerald green lake, was absolutely beautiful. And it was not that one. So what was so intriguing about that is that there is always this astounding follow-on from these very, very prophetic dreams. And so this morning, I'm going to take you to Langkawi. But before we go to Langkawi, I'm just going to introduce you all to Cheki, who's just here and arrived. So if you just like to lean into the
Good morning. Hi, Maiden.
Jackie is one of our leading practitioners here in the United Kingdom, and she was with us when we did the meninges. The follow-on from the story was shortly after this experience, I came to Malaysia and we did this wonderful, wonderful training. And then afterwards, I was very, very tired. And so I decided that it was necessary to have a little break, a little holiday. So I went to Langkawi, and whilst there, it was so hot. It was so incredibly, incredibly hot that I couldn't even walk on the beach, and the water was sort of lukewarm, so it wasn't refreshing at all. And the truth is that there was a whole lot of boatmen, and I said to one of them, you know, obviously you're doing trips, would you like to take me out to the outlying islands? And so sure enough, he took me to this island and dropped me off and said, if you walk along that path, you'll come to a freshwater lake and you'll be able to swim there. So off I set, quite happily, because I'm often on my own on these extraordinary trips. I'm never frightened, you know. It's extraordinary. I always felt the presence of the birds around me and the butterflies. And eventually I tripped over a log, and then suddenly there in front of me was this incredible bowl, the emerald green lake, which was absolutely astonishingly beautiful. But there were a whole lot of tourists, and I think they were Japanese. They were making a huge amount of noise, and they were jumping into the water and swimming and shouting and laughing. And whilst they were all there, I thought, I need to get away from them. I know what I'll do. I'll swim across to the other side of the lake and see if I can find some plants on the other side. Well, of course, that was incredibly ambitious. But what happened then was that they all left. And all of a sudden, it was me, just me, swimming in the middle of this lake all by myself. And I think I took fright. I suddenly thought, help, you know, this lake is much bigger than I realized. And I'm here. And what if they're crocodiles? What if somebody comes and sneaks up and bites me on my toes? So I thought I better hurry back. So I swam back. And whilst I was swimming back, it was incredibly peaceful. I saw the branches of the trees overhanging the lake, bouncing up and down. And so I swam under the branches, and there I saw these extraordinary little monkeys with incredible little black and white faces. And the most astonishing thing about the monkeys is that they were carrying orange babies. The extraordinary orange babies, these incredible little monkeys with their little black and white face. I'd just like to remind you about the dream originally. The shaman had a black and white face. And we were sort of following on from this dream. And so there was this little monkey, the little shamanic monkey, with these incredible orange babies. I've never seen anything like it, and they are absolutely astonishing. Anyway, I clambered out of the water, and a boatman arrived, and he said, "Would you like to go to the other side of the island, other side of the lake?" And I said, "Well, yes, I would actually, very much so." So this time I was much better prepared, because I actually had my little bottles of collecting with me, you know, my water bottles and everything. So he took me off on the journey to go across. And he took me to this rather interesting pile of rocks and said, if you climb up those rocks, you will be able to see the sea, because on the other side of these rocks, there is the sea. So this is a freshwater lake, but on the other side, it is actually the incredible sea. So there's sort of barrier between the freshwater and the saltwater, which is incredibly relevant. So I climbed up, and there, at the top of this rock face, was the most beautiful white lichen. And also, I'm remembering what Michael Nightingale said, I actually looked for the black lichen, or for the partner, and found the black lichen. At this stage, Moon and I went back to Langkawi and took this amazing photograph of the boundary between the right and the left, the fresh water and the seawater. Here we go. We were standing on this bridge. Well, when I went there was no bridge. There was nothing there at all. It was just an island. Now it's quite a commercial venture. We've got quite a lot of sea sports events, and it's all a little bit noisy. But we walked around the little bridge, and we came to this bridge across the division. And there you see on the left, you see this incredible lake below, and on the other side, the sea. Now, this is very, very, very relevant, because the boundary between the lake and the sea, the sweet water and the salt water. And in our bodies, we have this incredible division between the cellular fluid of the human body, which is our sea salt, and the cells, which actually contain the sweet water. And there is a very important part of the brain, which is called the hypothalamus. There are two hypothalamus. There are always two, which is rather interesting in terms of this concept of the black and the white, and the concept of the two plants that we need to find. I'd like you to remember that when you go plant collecting, about the idea of looking for the sister or the brother plant. But in this particular instance, it was really rather fascinating, because I found the white lichen. The white lichen, this is a really beautiful, we're talking about white lichen today specifically. If you remember correctly, we go back to the waterfall in Bentong, where we actually found the 4 lichens. We found the orange lichen, the duramater, the black lichen, the arachnoid mater, the spider's web, and we found the green lichen, which was for the pia mater, the support of the tender mother, the pia mater. But last time we did not discuss white lichen, and of course we had the waterfall white lichen. But I need to go back behind that discovery to this original dream, and so that is the white lichen on this rock that was the boundary between the seawater and the lake water, and this incredible green lichen. Well, the story doesn't quite end there, because when I got back to the hotel, I thought I'll look this up. I need to find out a little bit about this lake. And so I found that it was called the Lake of the Pregnant Maiden. And if you look at the backdrop of that photograph, that incredible reflection in the water, so above, so below, you'll see the shape of a woman. On the left is her face and her neck, and then her bosom, and then her pregnant bump. And it's called the Lake of the Pregnant Maiden because she lies there in the rock formation. And again, the legend is that if you swim in this lake, you will get pregnant. And that was rather important, because these are all specific symbols and signs, if you like to talk about this, because we know that the color orange is the reproductive energy. We know that this is the genitourinary tract. We understand, of course, going back to our little orange baby monkey, which is quite astonishing, because I did go to the museum, the Natural History Museum, and they said that these little monkeys were extinct. But then when I went to Langkawi with Moon, we were staying at the Datai, and down on the beach, there were all these little dusky monkeys with their little orange babies. And so they were not extinct at all, but there was one, the grey dusky monkey, that was meant to have lived on the Langkawi Island, which was extinct. I said, no, it's not extinct, because I saw them and they showed themselves to me. And I think they were the witnesses to this extraordinary dream. But talking about white lichen and lichens, I want to go back to this concept that lichens are made up of two plants. They are not one plant, they are an algae and a fungi. And the original research that we did into the lichens, and particularly white lichen, which is the lichen for spirituality, it is the most powerful and the most ancient of all the plants that we have in our pharmacopoeia of phytobiophysics, the lichen family. And the concept of this incredible duality of the two entities, the two plant species living together in symbiosis, is very much a reflection of this incredible concept. These extraordinary lichens grow over beautiful dolmens and sacred sites, and these dolmens in Jersey are very, very old, and they are burial grounds that were literally created 6,000 years ago. And these lichens are very old. And so not only are lichens extraordinary in that they are symbolically related to relationships through this concept of two plants living together, this is really quite intriguing, because they also go back in time for hundreds and thousands of years into the genome of the human being, or the cell structure, or the vibration of the pineal. And again, what was so very important about this Langkawi lake was this incredible understanding that we are gifted with energy, we're gifted with knowledge. And the relationship here, a bit like the durian being the mother of all fruit, here we had this concept that the pineal was still needed to be explored in virtue of the fact that it is not just a gland, but that it is actually the master controller organ of the human soul. And that every single cell in the human body has its brain, has its pineal, that is literally a hologram of the whole. So what was so astonishing was that from that, we devised and understood this concept that perhaps the pineal, not just a gland, but an organ, but possibly with a posterior and an anterior. And the concept of a posterior, the melanin, the melatonin, the DNA, was possibility that we had information here that we needed to explore deeper. And again, what was so intriguing about the black and white lichen, and I don't want to go into this in too much detail now because we're not talking about the black lichen, but remember that everything is a spider's web. And remember that the black lichen of the arachnoid mater, the spider, is actually very interesting, that everything is connected. So going back to the white lichen, we were gifted with this concept that these lichens were for the Y chromosome, the black lichen, and the white lichen being for the X chromosome, the feminine chromosome, the lake of the pregnant maiden, the little orange babies. Incredibly interesting. And there's one other aspect to the lichens that in the Power of Plants, my original book written 40 years ago, we talked about the lichen supporting virus. So that is of incredible importance. Also, it's this concept that lichens are regarded as barometers, the barometers to the atmosphere. They survive in very clean areas, but in sacred areas and blessed areas, but they often die in polluted areas. And just to go back to this concept of the partnership, such as a marriage or a friendship, remember that we cannot live alone. We cannot recreate our species alone. And the worst punishment of all is isolation. Relationships bind us, bond us wholly. They literally allow us to be healthy in our lives, our friends, our family, the people that we choose. And there's a very powerful concept here of the figure of 8, as well as this concept of the cross, the ancestral memory. Remember, we talked about the incredible storkbill being the ancestral silver thread. Well, here we have the ancestral silver thread following into our future, into what is going to happen in millennia to come. And we are part of that process. We are the center of the figure of 8 of the past, the present, and the future. And so it's all very fascinating, because when I travel, I'm often incredibly inspired and find these exquisite, beautiful plants. So I want to take you now to the Bahamas. No, I think not Bahamas. I think this was actually Antigua. And again, I found this exquisitely beautiful plant, this flower that has 5 petals and an optic nerve. The mangrove. Now, the mangrove is an extremely interesting plant. It forms a belt around the entire world and separates the land from the sea. So here we again have a plant that is capable of growing in salt. It's one of the few trees that grows in salt water. I don't think there are any other trees that grow in salt water. It survives and thrives and produces these extraordinary flowers with these incredible white oval petals. And we're coming on to that in a little while as well. But it's difficult to see in that picture, but there is a little optic nerve which is separate from the pineal. And of course, the pineal links into the optic nerve and this concept of sight and perception. So this beautiful, beautiful flower was actually for the pineal again. So we're back to the pineal. And this again, I'm sort of hopping around a little bit here because I'm trying to create a spider's web for you. The master pineal enzyme is the genome of the human species. And then we had pineal relay enzyme, which is for the structure. That was another lichen. And pineal ribosome enzyme, structure of the hormones and the enzymes. And then we go back to our pineal melanin enzyme, which was our lake of the pregnant maiden, the melatonin parathyroid factor, the melatonin thymus factor, and the melatonin pancreas factor. Some of you, my more advanced practitioners, have already studied the pineal with me. And then finally, the pineal endocrine enzyme. And that was the incredibly beautiful jade lichen that was on the altar in the cave, all connected to the optic nerve. So this plant is rather synonymous and rather symbolic, this incredible little flower, and a very high vibration indeed. But going on from there was this other plant that we found, which was the extraordinary Hoya. Now, Hoya grows all around the world as well. I'll just go back, actually, Moon, I'm so sorry. If you can just see this, this is how this tree survives, because it's growing in salt, but it actually exudes salt. So if you're, needing salt, you can actually collect it from the back of the mangrove leaves. And again, I would like to look at this as the sodium electrolyte pathway. This is also very important, and I'm going to come back to this possibly. But I'd just like to look through, because we see the tricuspid valve, the optic nerve, the cerebellum, the thalamus, the DNA, the thymus factor. So that's the DNA. Thymosin. Now, thymosin is a very, very, very important hormone that is responsible for your antibodies and production of your white blood cells. And also, I want to draw your attention to white oval lichen. We're going to come to that one. eyesight, immunity. Simian virus 2 is the monkey virus from some of the vaccines that leads to leukemia. And simian virus 40 is the monkey virus that leads to cancer. And simian virus 5 is the monkey virus that leads to fibroids and cancerous cysts. We then have this concept that this extraordinary flower heals the meningococcal, the meninges. So going back to our podo of the meninges, realizing that this is a follow-on from the previous lecture. Now I want to draw your attention to this extraordinary pentagon flower, 5 petals, pentagon, pentagon, pentagon. And if you look at it very carefully, the structure of this exquisitely beautiful sugary Hoya, it exudes sugar, it drips sugar. So if you're, if you're hungry, you can actually lick the petals and suck the sugar off them. And honeybirds absolutely adore this plant. But if you look carefully, you'll see the 5 petals, and then you'll see the 5 little petals, and then the red is based on 5, and then the little stamen in the center is 5. And so it goes on. But then if we move on to the next one, which is absolutely beautiful, the next picture, what do you see in the center of your Hoya? Does anybody see a little turtle, a beautiful little turtle? So here we are looking at this incredibly beautiful plant, and this plant grows all over the world, by the way. It's an extraordinary pentagon flower. Again, you have the 5 petals and the 5 sepals, and you have this incredible and exquisite center, which is the little turtle. And here we are back to our dream of the little turtle of life, the incredible, exquisite turtle of life. The milky sap, which is beautiful, beautiful plant, but it's very interesting because it's sweet and sticky and like treacle. So here again, we have this concept of salt and sweet, a bit like the lake and the salt sea, the potassium electrolyte pathway, the sulfur, and this extraordinary pentagon flower represents the family unity. Again, like the lichens, the flowers are more emotional, remember, they're much more acute. The lichens are old souls, and they go deep, deep, deep. I'd like to just talk about this family unity again, this pentagon representing the family and the ancestry, and the spiritual family and the silver thread of family relationships. We can never get away from the basic building blocks of the philosophy of phytobiophysics. And here we come back to our heart power formulas, our 5 incredible heart power formulas, 5 + 1, the extraordinary heart power 1 for spiritual, and for the bundle of His, for the heart center point, the upper right quadrant, the tricuspid formula, spiritual calm, the pulmonary, the beautiful green, heart power 3, breathe freely. On then the left side, we have the mitral formula, emotional immunity, and then of course down into the aortic valve, the beautiful red formula called structural integrity. The family unit. It is so important to understand this concept in healing and healing ourselves. But just at the bottom, you might see sacred lichens green. And remember, Hoya, therefore, could very easily tie in with the green lichen. That's rather a lovely picture, that one actually, Moon, because it's got the dripping sugar sort of dripping off the plant, and it's absolutely lovely. It grew in my sitting room, I don't know why, and then came back and found this puddle of treacle under the flower. So that's how I know that this one is a sugar plant. Yes, this back to the spider's web. And again, we are now looking at this concept of this stunning hexagon. Again, you all know this flower. It's so, so beautiful. 6 incredible petals and these amazing center point and the vibration of the hexagon. And that has to be my most favorite picture in the entire world of the concept of nature, this concept of the hexagon, the hexagon, the hexagon. And right in the center of that extraordinary snow crystal is our little turtle again, bang smack in the middle of that beautiful, beautiful, extraordinary extraordinary snow crystal. But this was an extremely interesting plant, a very, very beautiful plant that we all found when I was doing the course with you. And the key to that course was special needs, working with the children. The children are desperately in need of our help. Never more so than now. I have never been so busy as I am with looking after families with little children who are being classified as special needs. I'm quite certain that this is a growing problem all over the world. And it's so important, the work that we did with Bentong. But this was an extremely interesting flower because 4 of you and myself as well all chose this flower to make for our training course in the Sanjiao, at the Sajana. And again, extraordinary energy, the formula for the DNA, the parath hormone, the endocrine, the growth hormone, melatonin stimulating hormone, the brain hormones, the entire brain hormone pathway. And absolutely supporting this long ME, glandular fever, extraordinary exhaustion. What an incredibly beautiful plant. And the spider's web. We can't get away from these concepts, these basic principles. And this takes us back to our white waterfall. This incredible, incredible flower. The vibration of this white lichen, and this is why we're talking about it, because it has the same vibration as this incredible spider's lily. The spider's web. And this is a flower for the hippocampus, which is an extremely important part of the brain. This is for the optic nerve, for the thalamus, for histamine. And histamine is so incredibly important because histamine is the hormone that is the brain hormone that's triggered through the white blood cells called basophils, which activates histamine to trigger off the immune system to create thymopoietin. Thymopoietin is RNA tricuspid. RNA tricuspid is thymopoietin. It vibrates on the frequency of ultraviolet and is the key to the autoimmune system. Spider lily essence is there, and we have a Malta poppy, incredibly beautiful poppy from Malta. This is why the world is so beautiful, and this is why our logo is the flowers centered around the world, because every part of the world has plants that contribute to the healing of mankind. So we can move on from that one. The Gaharu flower. Madam Yap and Moon and I went to the Gaharu, beautiful, beautiful Gaharu forests, where they have these exquisitely beautiful seed pods that are exactly like the heart. And of course, Gaharu is one of the most important, powerful healers for the heart. It's in our HF11, flower formula 11, Hawthorn for the heart meridian. But I want to now talk to you about the hippocampus. The hippocampus is a major component of the brain of the humans. It belongs to the limbic system. And remember, the limbic system is the ancient brain of emotion, function and thought and love and emotions such as, anger, grief, sorrow, frustration, all the amazing emotions of devotion and love and healing, these incredible emotions controlled through the memory banks of the brain, the cerebral cortex, the temporal lobe of the brain. And again, when you damage the hippocampus, you lose your memory. You lose your journey. You lose everything that you are. You lose your path. You have nothing behind you. And again, we're seeing this horrible situation in our children, our autistic children who have hippocampus damage, who have, cannot remember words, that therefore they cannot repeat them, they can't talk back, they have speech delays. And remember, the vibration of speech is not a sensory organ, it's a manifestation of sensory imbalance or sensory activation, if you like, stimulation. We live through our memories, our photographs, our love affairs, our old friends, and we base our lives, our story, if you like, on these memories. when somebody loses their memory, it's incredibly tragic. I can only tell you from personal experience that when my mother became just, in the last few months of her life, she lost her memory and became incredibly Alzheimer's. And she didn't know who I was. And then we had these funny little flashes of memory. She'd suddenly say, where's Penny? Where's Diana? I haven't seen Penny. And Penny would be sitting, my sister, right beside her, or I'd be sitting holding her hand. And then she'd say things like, are you my new nurse? So she had this strange sort of memory about what had happened to her in a moment or two, but the memory of her life had gone. And when the memory of her life went, she became incredibly radiant, beautiful. She had no wrinkles. She had no lines on her face. There was nothing there. She was vacant and empty, because our souls are our memory. The memory of our ancestors, the memory of who and what we are and how we are created, lying in the most incredible place in the stars, actually, in the ancestral stars of humanity, our extraordinary genome of who we are. We can't touch it, we can only damage it. And unfortunately, we are very destructive in modern society. Why is it called hippocampus? It's rather an interesting name. If you look carefully, you'll see a little seahorse in the picture there. You can just see it in the middle of the bottom of the thing. It's incredible. And it was quite coincidental, because I was watching a nature program yesterday of how little seahorses procreate, the mating game. And what is so intriguing is that the mother, the female seahorse, lays her eggs in the male pouch, and so he gestates. It's a complete reversal of how babies are kept in the womb, and then he goes into contraction, and out pop all these little baby seahorses. Did you see it? That was last night. Anyway, it was rather intriguing in view of the fact that I was going to talk to you about the seahorse today. Hippo, Latin for horse, and campus, monster. So sea monster, horse monster. But it's a very, very interesting concept. And if we just move on to the next slide, this is where we're going to start looking back to our cave again, the White Cave Lichen. When Moon and I went back to the cave, we wanted to go back to it. And it was very, very interesting. Moon will tell you what was so frightening, in fact, was that they built a monastery inside the cave, but that it was completely deserted because every single one of the monks had been very, very ill and they all died. And so the monastery was deserted. It was an evil place, but I said, no, we need to try to find something valuable from this experience. And we found this beautiful white lichen, the White Cave Lichen. And it's so fascinating because this was the investigation into this, was that it was the same vibration as this beautiful tree in Australia that literally covers the whole of Sydney in the autumn, this incredibly beautiful jacaranda, which in fact has come out as sort of purpley, but it's more an indigo, a sort of bluey, beautiful blue tree flower. And extraordinary, because this is for the left hippocampus. Now the waterfall lily, lichen, is for the right hippocampus. So this was very deep. The left hippocampus, left part of the brain, remember, controlling the right side of the body. And so what an extraordinary concept these lichens have been. I want to talk to you about this because the memory of the corpus callosum, and I think some of you have done brain polo as well, but we're not going to go into this. It's a little bit too deep, but it is intriguing that the memory of the hippocampus, if the hippocampus is imbalanced, then it will flow again into the concept of the corpus callosum. And also, I'd just like to remind you that the two hemispheres of the corpus callosum are synaptic. And when we do the cranial podo, basically the fundamental thing about that is that we are restoring the energy back into synaptic control. Likewise, when we take a flower formula and we do a muscle test of heart center point, the whole body has remained, has become stable. And likewise, when we do the work with these formulas and also with Polo, we are basically stabilizing the spinal, the skull bones, and bringing them back into stability. And as we bring them back into stability, so also do we create this synaptic control, this balance between the synapses of the corpus callosum. And the memory of the corpus callosum is short-term memory stored in the hippocampus as a result of, it's a bit like when you're working with a computer, you fundamentally write your document, and if you don't save it and store it, you lost it. So basically the concept here is that you have the experience and you store it across the corpus callosum from right to left, where it's stored in the left brain as your memory. What we're actually seeing in modern society is a massive, horrendous imbalance of people becoming more and more disturbed and more Alzheimer, which is a huge, huge worry. But before we finish, and I really do want to spend a little bit longer because I want to bring in something else. I want to take you this time to Victoria, which is just off the east coast, or the west coast of Canada. And this extraordinary experience was yet another dream. I was there with a group of practitioners. We were training Heartlock, and I had a very strange dream while I was staying with some great friends, one of my practitioners called Bonnie. And the dream was quite beautiful, actually, and it's very, very relevant for today. The dream was of the three white ovals. The three white ovals and the black ball, that's all the dream was. It was so obvious, it was so powerful, and it was so visible, and that it literally took me by surprise. So breakfast time, Anthony was with me as well. They were the witnesses, Anthony, Bonnie, myself, and another practitioner. So I drew this on a piece of paper and I said, I have no idea what it means. I have no clue as to what this means. Three white ovals and the black ball. It was a very sacred dream, and I knew that it was powerful. I really want to say that this is so important today because there's a lot of evil on the planet, an awful lot of evil, but the real beauty of the world is that we are absolutely protected. We are protected by our guardian angels. We're protected by our spirituality. We are protected by our souls, our faith, our belief systems. Remember, the White Lichens are all about faith and belief. And intriguingly enough, we are told that good outweighs evil to the power of 3. So whenever there is evil, there will always be 3 times much good in the world. But without negativity, there is no positivity. And so this is also very important because of the black and the white. Again, we're back to this concept of black and white. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about this concept of choice. While we were in Canada, it was the Olympic Games, and the symbol of the Olympic Games for Canada was this exquisite Inukchuk, the Inukchuk, which is amazing, like our dolmens in Jersey, where he's got these ancient sort of burial standing stones. These extraordinary stones, they're huge, have been created and erected all over northern Canada. And they are representative of guidance. The traditional meaning of the Inukchuk was to act as a compass or a guide for the safe journey of our lives. Like ancient trackers, they help guide people seeking their way through the wilderness. And again, if there was an Inukchuk with 2 arms and legs, it meant that there was a valley. And at the end of this valley, you will be able to go in either one of two directions. And today this serves as a reminder that we always have a choice. Remember, in the power of plants, we talk about choice. We have a choice to choose our friends. We have a choice to follow our true path. We have a choice to keep ourselves well. We have a choice to allow ourselves to fall ill. We always have a choice. Do you remember we talked about the lichens as having 2 directions, the past, the infinity into the ancient ancestral memory banks, and the present and the future. And the cross is the people we choose in our lives to love, the people we fall in love with, often in a split second, the people who we'll always love for the rest of our lives, the people who make our lives, give our lives meaning. So I love this concept of the Inukshuk giving us a choice, because I believe that that is exactly, you know, what's so unique in our lives. But the extraordinary thing was that after this dream, I could not work out what it meant. And I thought, well, there has to be some concept. It's either their white feathers or the you know, the Cherokee Indian feather headdresses. No, that didn't quite tie in. But if we move on, I would like to take you back. What happened was so extraordinary. So what was so extraordinary was that when I went to my hotel room, the picture on the wall was this incredible concept of this light beam. This was a picture on the wall in my hotel room, and there on the floor were the white ovals lying on the floor. But this was sunlight shining through the hexagon, and there on the floor are these white ovals. And we also had this incredibly beautiful book about the work of Emoto, and we were looking at the crystals of the flower essences, and this is the snow crystal of the elderflower, and the center of the water crystal is the formation of the hexagon, which is our symbol of life, going back to the incredible flower of the spider lily that we looked at, and that incredible crystal. And so then I went into the classroom, and there on the wall of the classroom was this picture. And they're so extraordinary because this has all happened after the dream, remember? Because if you look at the center of this Inukshuk, there are 3 white ovals. And then if you see at the bottom, there is the black ball. And so this was also rather extraordinary because this symbol of the 3 white ovals and the black ball kept on being presented to me. But then what happened was that we went for this incredible walk, and we had a choice. Bonnie said we can either walk along the beach or we can go into the woods and climb up the mountain and see, you know, see the view across. So this is so beautiful, Vancouver. I absolutely love it. And the irony is that I was staying in a hotel called the 3 White Sails, which is so extraordinary. So these echoes and reflections. But when we went for the walk, we walked up through this incredible Douglas fir. Again, this incredible mission statement. Our mission statement is 1 drop of water. This incredible logo. Our logo is the drop of water with the world connected through the flowers, north, south, east, and west. This is our Phytobiophysics logo. And this incredible drop of water in the center, which is the drop of eternal life. The mission statement to bring affordable healthcare to the people of the world using the infinite energy of the healing power of plants and flowers. We can only do this if we have our eyes open to the incredible beauty of the world. And believe you me, I am sitting here with Checky, and it is the most beautiful day. We're looking out at the sacred guardians, the beautiful trees. Never lose sight of the beauty of our world. But then we walked through this amazing, the Douglas fir, these incredible trees, and found the fir cone of the Douglas fir. And if you look very carefully, you'll see white lichen growing up on the tree trunks. But we walked on and up, and the incredible information of the Douglas fir was that this was all about the calling. We'd chosen to go this route, the sacred energy, the elements of earth, fire, water, incredible, powerful energy. The steam cave, the mission, the ancestry, this incredible fir cone for faith and belief and agape being God love, the central point, the world. We have been asked to heal the world, the creation, the grid, moving energy, vortex, and interestingly enough, cadmium. Now the flower essence for cadmium is white chrysanthemum, and the white chrysanthemum is the flower of life, which is actually the rule of the 64 changes. So we go round and round in these incredible circles. We clambered up this mountain, and then when we got to the top, we found this extraordinary tree. And there on this tree trunk were the white oval lichen. And that blew my mind. And I just went, oh, wow. We keep on being presented with that very simple little symbol, the 3 white ovals and the black ball. There were these extraordinary white oval lichen. And again, the white oval lichen, oxygenation, oxygen, echoes of one, white circles, love and power and oneness between male and female, marriage, partnerships, divine oneness. The formula supports the coenzyme Q10 pathway, which is oxygenation. The Krebs cycle, coenzyme Q10, the brain hormone, stimulant interferon, that is our immune system, the blood, thymus function, the macrophage system, the spleen. We just go round in the most incredible circles. And so white oval lichen, just yet another lichen. The original white lichen in our Power of Plants said that this was the support of the spiritual journey of our lives and the most aggressive force that is negative that can have impact on us, which is virus. Wow, what a powerful philosophy that we've been given to actually help and heal the viruses of the world that are so aggressive in modern society. So I think that's the end. I think that's the last in the PowerPoint. Just to finalize and just to finish with you all and to say what an absolute pleasure it is to work with you. You must remember that we are not alone, that we are working together in the most astonishing way. You must remember that all the work that we are doing, it's absolutely exceptionally important. And everything that we learn, you know, we are humble. We are just working with beautiful little fluorescences, but are they so little? And the answer is no, I don't think so. I think that we have been gifted with the most superlative knowledge. And I'm really delighted that we have this opportunity. Blessings to you all. Do not forget that you are there humbly helping humanity, and what a gift. What a gift. And thank you again. So that's very important. We have to stay well to look after other people. So lots and lots of love. Bye.